had some guys in terms of special teams contributions.
Yeah, I think we got several guys that can help us. There's several guys that had some experience doing it in college. Um, Dax done some stuff in college and been a productive player early in his career. And I think that's kind of the story with a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys have played extensively earlier in their career. The same can be said with Cam, Taylor Britt. I mean, it's virtually all these guys have done some form or fashion of it.
The decision to re-sign Kevin, was that in the works all along? I mean, just kind of waiting to see how the draft fell out and then make that move?
Yeah, I think the offer had been out there. The offer had been out there for some time. I think that um, I think he'd have to speak to Kevin more about it, but I think that he wanted to wait and see how the draft played out for us before he made a determination about what he wanted to do. And obviously, we didn't do anything in the draft and didn't acquire anybody that way, so it makes an easier path to come back.
What is a punting competition going to look like, Coach? You've never had.
Well, we haven't had one in a long time, for
With
sure.
Kevin, I
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been a pretty good road for him that way. He hasn't, had a ton of competition. I think it looked like it. Any of the kicking competitions we've had in the past. I think you're going to a punting competition with these guys got to split equal reps with, different snappers. And I also think too that the holding part is a significant part of it too. I used to think that a punter's job 60% probably of his job was punting and probably 40% was holding. I think with the advent of more of the analytic stuff that we rely on now, obviously, having the personnel we have on offense, we go for it on fourth down more than we have ever in my time here. So now I think some of that is shifted. The punting and the holding part's probably shifted to the holding. Obviously having a weapon that we have in Evan, you know, um, in being able to back our field goal attempts up a little bit, certainly opens the field up for those guys offensively too. And so now, I think it's probably like more 55-45, or it's probably damn close to 50-50 punter job holding and punting.
Could you see where is it different? Could you see a trend where the punter doesn't do it, and maybe a receiver, maybe somebody with great hands, like a receiver or something?
No, never. I never see that happening because I don't know how you practice. I mean, how does the kicker ever practice? So much of how the success I think of a kicker is the relationships and the timing that they develop between the snapper and the holder and the trust that they develop, and you never get to do that. That was old school stuff. Um, that they used to do way back. The guy with the best hands that would do it was a back. That's why a lot of times you see a backup quarterback would often do it. But now I don't think that'll ever happen. It certainly wouldn't happen here, just because I don't know how you practice. They need to develop the timing and the trust every day. We're over in our side field, and people think we're doing nothing. That they're over there developing trust between each other, and so I certainly think that that's a huge part of their job.
Did Drue hold at Ohio State?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I think that Kevin has a leg up obviously on that. He's done it for so much longer. And he's been through the trust I think that Clark and Kevin have gained over time certainly figures into that too. But no, it's something Drue's been working on hard. We worked on it, and he knows was a deficiency necessarily, or deficiency a little bit in his game. Um, and for him to have to compete, or for him to put himself in a position to compete to be the starting punter, the kicker's got to have success when he's in there too. That's a big part of it.
When evaluating a guy like Huber, who's been here now going into his 14th year, versus Drue, who's a younger guy, is the equity that Kevin's built up, does that matter in a competition like this, or are they both on level playing field going into this competition?
Well, I think it's a level of trust. I think it's probably what you're getting at when you refer to equity. I think there's a certain level of trust that I have in that figures into it some. I also know that we got to produce. When in critical spots, we got to be able to punt the ball. And we got to be able to punt the ball in flip field position. And I don't think we did that as good as maybe what we've done in the past down the stretch of the season. And I think that's why we're even having this conversation right now. Yes, it certainly figures into it. There's not too many situations that Kevin and I have not been through. In all the special teams play. I have a great deal of trust in his ability to understand and know what to do. Now it's up to him to physically be able to go out there and prove that he can still do that.
Darrin, a lot of years, I mean, you would scale Kevin back, and Cam saved his leg.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much is there a balance in that for you? How much do you really need to see from him in a competition when you've seen it all kind of from?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point. You know, I think one of Kevin's most productive years was 2020, and it was COVID. You know, and we had no off season, we had no OTAs, so really he's out there doing it on his own. And a big part of what I tried to do a year ago was scaling him back. Uh, was really tried to scale him back. I think it was unfortunate. If you remember, Drue got hurt at the beginning of training camp or coming into training camp. He was hurt, so I really had no choice. But Kevin had to punt more than what I would like for him to punt, and Drue really didn't have a chance to compete. Really all through training camp to win the job a year ago. But it is certainly. Do I need to see what Kevin can do? Yeah, I need to see what he can do. I need to see, to a degree, that he still has it, that he can still physically go out and do the things that he needs to do to be a competent punter in this league. Is May and June the time for that to happen? Not necessarily. I think that's going to be more August and July, or August and September. But it is a valid point.
Is that the same case for Clark as well with Cal on the roster?
Yeah, I think it's probably real close to the same thing. Again, both of those guys are guys that I certainly have a great amount of respect for. But with everything, you're trying to put the best 53 guys or the best 46 guys or 47 guys, whatever the hell it is now, out there on the field. And again, Clark has seen every rush known to man in over his career here, even in the league, and through video and through tape study. Do I need to see a ton for him about what he can do? Yeah, I need to see it more later on, to see that, again, for the same reasons as he still have it. And how does that compare to what, maybe this other guy can bring, Cal can bring?
The fact that you punted before, in your career, not only the distance, the leg strength, how, as you advance in terms of experience, how does that start to affect other things that you need to do as a punter in terms of, short field, keeping it inside the 20-yard line, all the different techniques, everything that you have to do as a punter? How do those get affected?
Well, I really think that, quite honestly, punting now is not just really, it's not very often you just lining up and wailing away and seeing how high and seeing how far you can hit it, how high and how far you can hit it. I think it's so much more situationally involved now, based on A, field position, B, who you're up against, who's back there returning punts. I mean, our division has certainly upgraded the return games, with Jakeem Grant in Cleveland. Pittsburgh still has Deontay Johnson. He hasn't done it a whole lot. He's still very effective. I know that Ray McLeod's not there, but they just drafted a good one in Calvin Austin. And then Baltimore has the AFC Pro Bowler in Duvernay. So, I mean, so much of it now is situationally based, Lap, that being able to know exactly what punt you need to dial up in every single play is more important than, just overall leg strength. There are times, though, that when you need to have true leg strength, if we're punting off our own 10-yard line, we got to flip the field. We got to make sure they're starting off on the other side of the 50. Where, you got to find that, and he's still got to be able to do that. We need it. And but I think situational punting has become a much bigger emphasis than, for me, than what it used to be.
How's Drue in that regard? Is Drue got everything, all the tools you need to feel comfortable with the situational aspect?
Well, I wish I would have been able to see that a year ago in the preseason games. He didn't get to play any preseason games, so you never know how guys are going to react until, they're really out there in critical spots. It's a hell of a lot different doing that, on Friday afternoon at 2:30 at practice as it is to, even a preseason game or even, God forbid, a regular season game. So I need to see him be able to do that to have my confidence that he can do it in critical spots. I need to see him do it in games.
It seems like you do have some confidence in him, though. You guys have brought him back and
Yeah.
try to keep him around as much as possible.
Well, I think he's a guy that has some ability. He proved that when I did see him a year ago. He proved that he had a nice career at Ohio State. There's obviously things that he's working hard that we've really I've tried to make a big emphasis to him. These are the things that you need to do to put yourself in a position to compete for this spot. And he's a smart guy, and I think he's working hard to try to do those things. So yeah, I think he has ability, and now it's up to him to put it out there and show it.
There's so much talk, Darrin, about speed on defense and being able to cover wide receivers. What about speed on special teams?
Oh, It's what it's all about for me. It's speed and the will to want to make a play. Um, and I think we've certainly upgraded our level in those spots, or we've upgraded the speed for sure with the addition of some of those DBs that we've added through the draft. And experience I think is something that it's not overrated, but it's something I think is a general rule you see less and less of guys that come into pro football now have in college football. Meaning some guys don't play much at all, special teams in college because they're the frontline players offensively and defensively. I mean, Chris Evans had done a little bit of it at Michigan. He hadn't done a ton of it, but he's going to become, if he wants to get a jersey on Sundays, he's got to become and did become a good player for us on special teams, and certainly know that they could impact the game, in what they do there. Again, I think you saw that at the end of the year when he became the kickoff returner. After we moved on from, or Darius got injured, and we kind of moved on from him, and Chris became our kickoff returner and did a fine job of it, down the stretch. And he didn't get an opportunity to return one in the Super Bowl. They chose to take all touchbacks. So again, I think it's a good example. Speed is certainly huge. You can't be fast enough in my area, I think, because it puts so much pressure on coverage, or puts so much pressure on return teams. The faster you're able to run, the more pressure you can put on them, A, if they're going to make a play or make a tackle, or B, to even force penalties. So, yeah, speed is a huge, huge, huge factor. I think we've really done a good job of identifying guys that fit the bill there.
I think the guy from Toledo had like 17 career special teams tackles.
Mhm.
He played a lot early, not as much now.
Correct.
But where does he compare to guys that have come in? And because we know this guy's going to he's going to make the club, he's going to play for you. How comparatively, how far is he maybe ahead from some of these other guys that have come in the past?
Well, I think we'll find that out shortly, but I think in terms of experience, he's had some production. As you said, I think he had 17 tackles in his career. Again, he's a size speed athlete. I mean, he's 6'1", he's 210 pounds. He runs under 4'4". I mean, those are great things for me. Now I just got to get him up to speed on, the mental part of it and the way we do things here. I don't know that there's a great comparison. Somebody like Clayton Fedgel, I mean, he wasn't, for all the good things that he didn't run sub 4'4", and he wasn't 210 pounds, he was 200 pounds. But, the one thing that Clayton had was desire. He had the will to want to make a play, too. And that's what I think will show up, too, as we get more into this and into preseason games even, is all those guys, the will to want to make a play and the will to do things the way that we want them done will really show up.
Is that why, I mean, over the years you think, all right, boy, defensive back, they have a great shot because they've tackled before. You've had your share of wide receivers and running backs, though, that have turned into great special teams, kind of get people on the ground. How do you determine that the guy has the ability to do that? What do you see in guys?
Well, I think the positions that they put themselves in practice lap are the biggest things. The way that we practice, helps develop those techniques. That's not something they do every day. We've had plenty of, hell, I mean, we've had tight ends that become very effective guys that are good tacklers. I mean, it dates all the way back to Tony Stewart. Way back to guys like him. We've had some really, really good tight ends that can play and cover, and receivers. Kevin Walter, that's how he cut his teeth in this league, was being a productive special teams player. Tab Perry, those are just guys dating way back. I think the drills and stuff that we do to teach them how to put themselves in good position to tackle in practice, I think helps that. And then obviously them just being able to go out and do it in the games, is a big thing too. But yeah, regardless of where the pool of those players come from, whether they come from defensive backgrounds or offensive backgrounds, they all got to play the same way on Sunday.
What did you think of the punt returner class? Were there guys that you liked and were really excited about that just didn't fall to you, or did you feel like it was a little disappointing there weren't more that you were kind of irked interested in?
Well, I think for whatever reason, the last couple years it's been leaner to me, I think, than what it's been in some years. There were some good ones. I mean, that came out this year. I just don't think there was many good ones. Many that I viewed as being, these are going to be top flight NFL starters. And quite frankly, of all the top guys that we've had rated over the last 5 draft classes, Colt and I went back and looked and see how they did in the rookie season. And really none of them have blown it out of the water. that are 10 or 12 or whatever yard punt return average guys. Really, there's not been any of them that have done that. And so I don't know if it's a matter of transitioning from how the rules are different in college football. In college football, the biggest difference in the rules is everybody can release on the snap. And that's why you see so much of the scramble, rollout, rugby punts in college football, and those things aren't allowed in the NFL because only the gunners, the end man, can release. So it's a bit of a different game, I think, in college football. They're more and again, I think it deals with personnel. In college football, some of these punt team players are linemen. They have the front wall of people to block, and they have what they call the shield. And a lot of times, these shield players in college football are big guys, are linemen. It's legitimate. These punt rushers rush on this punt team, and they rush for 10 yards, and this like a battering ram, and they got to put these big guys out there. But they do that so the snapper never has to protect. They try to make it as easy as they can for the long snapper in college football. So again, you get a variety of. I'm making a long-winded answer here, but you get a variety of different reasons why I don't think that it hasn't equated quite as good. I think you're not playing with the skill of players in college football in coverage. So I think college returners are more productive than they are when they get to the NFL. But the pool of guys, it just hasn't been as deep as it has been in the past. It seems to me.
Safe to say Trent is probably kind of fairly solid. As you now still with the returner? Are there other guys you have your mind on that could be in a competition there? Or maybe you're curious some of your draft picks, how they would maybe look as returners?
Well, I don't know if we have any draft picks necessarily fit that bill, but I mean, Trent is certainly, as you know, I don't want to lose games by not being able to handle the ball, as a punt returner. And, that certainly happened last year for us. The San Francisco game just killed us. You aren't going to find many games that you win and turn the ball over, on special teams. Not once, but twice. And so you don't want to lose games by doing that. And he's certainly somebody I have a great deal of trust in. I had a great deal of trust in him coming out of training camp a year ago too. And because he's done it, he's got skins on the wall in this league of doing it. There are other guys too that have worked their tail off, the whole season. Puka is somebody obviously that is going to be an intriguing guy to see how his development has gone from year 1 to year 2. We have another Jay Hawk that we signed as a free agent in Kwame Lassiter too, who's done it. And the more of those Kansas guys we can get, the better.
Coach,
Last question.
They'll win a game.
I don't want to be the last guy.
Okay, we got time for one more question.
Yeah, so real quick, I don't know if this was asked earlier, Mike said that the team meeting that Zach had with the players, talking about everything was out in front of us. What was the reception like? What was it feeling like when Zach said that, and what's that kind of?
Say that one more time. I couldn't skip it.
Yeah, so Mike said, in the team meeting that Zach told the team that everything that y'all want to attain is out in front of y'all.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that reception was taken amongst the players?
Well, I think everybody understands the unique part about this business and what we do is, we don't get to pick up where we left off. I mean, we everything hit, we get to hit reset, and we're all at 0-0. I mean, we don't get to pick up where we left off. So we're not a Super Bowl team. We played in the Super Bowl last year, but we have the roster is completely different. But it is right. Everything is still right out in front of us, same way it was a year ago. It's just a matter of us executing it and doing it, and having the right opportunities. But I think it's received exactly the way it should have been. I think our guys know and understand that. It'll be something certainly that we hit on, throughout the rest of the offseason and through training camp is, hey, we're starting over. We're at ground zero again, same place that all 31 other teams are too, and because they're battling for the same thing, just like we were a year ago. We're sitting in the same spot, and I think it's proof that if you put a good product together, you get a group of guys that believe in what you're doing and believe in one another, that everything's out in front of you.
Thanks, Darrin. And then Logan has a meeting, so we've got him for about 8 to 10 minutes before he has to get out.
Thanks, Aaron.
Darrin,
Good.
thank you.
That's your shoulder check.